Our next award is called the Impact Award. It recognizes leaders who exemplify the highest ideals and standards of the legal profession and have truly made an impact on our profession and in our community. Now, for this year's Impact Award, we are so proud to recognize the president of Queens College, City University of New York, Frank H. Wu. And we are delighted to have Frank with us tonight for a fireside chat with the Honorable Denny Chin, an esteemed judge for the United States Court of Appeals Second Circuit. Judge Chin, incidentally, was also the first Asian American appointed as a United States District Judge outside of the Ninth Circuit. In 2010, he was confirmed 98-0 by the United States Senate. Yeah, if that was my mom, she'd probably have said, why 98? Why not 100? A- is Asian for fail. Anyways, let's see what they have to say.
The Asian American Bar Association of New York is honored to present the 2021 AABANY Impact Award to Frank Wu, the president of Queens College, the City University of New York. Born in Cleveland and raised outside Detroit, Frank embodied the quintessential first-generation immigrant juxtaposed on the backdrop of America's heartland. As a member of the only Asian family in his neighborhood, he became all too aware of racial bias at an early age. Wisdom from those early lessons on the importance of diversity and self-acceptance has guided and inspired Frank's career to this day. A graduate of Johns Hopkins University, the University of Michigan Law School, and the Management Development Program at Harvard University, Frank clerked for the late U.S. District Judge Frank J. Battisti in Cleveland. He then practiced law with Morrison and Foerster in San Francisco before devoting his career to legal education. Frank served on the faculty of Howard University, the nation's leading historically black university, for nearly a decade. A consistent trailblazer, Frank went on to become the first Asian American dean of Wayne State University Law School in his hometown of Detroit, the first Asian American chancellor and dean of UC Hastings College of the Law, and of course, the first Asian American president of Queens College.
Frank is a giant in legal education, but as he was blazing trails, he never forgot those behind him.
He had a gift, which was to organize and build community amongst all of us, and to build relationships and community, and so that we could support one another and help one another and be with one another.
Fearless, honest, generous, insightful, and yet he manages to do all of it while remaining very down to earth.
A prolific writer, Frank is the author of Yellow, Race in America Beyond Black and White, a book that takes a hard look at racial stereotypes for Asians, including the model minority and the perpetual outsider myths.
I want to tell you some of the things, Frank, that I've admired about you over the years. And one is your commitment to getting the story out there, to getting your work out there in front of the general public and not just other scholars.
Frank Wu has had an enormous impact on Asian Americans, lawyers, and Asian American legal scholarship. His writing has been instrumental, insightful. His engagement with the community has revealed a deep commitment to mentorship and actually elevating the public good. He's been an extraordinary person, and this award is well deserved.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join us in congratulating tonight's recipient of the 2021 AABANY Impact Award, Frank Wu. And now, President Frank Wu will be joined by the Honorable Denny Chin from the Second Circuit for a fireside chat. Ladies and gentlemen, Frank Wu and Judge Chin.
Frank, congratulations and welcome to New York. And I know you've been president of Queens College since approximately July. And this is after a long and distinguished career as a law professor and a law dean. And now you're running a public college with some 20,000 students, many of whom are undergraduates. and other graduate students who are not law students. So why the change?
I wasn't looking to be a college president. I wanted to come to be the Queens College president, and that's because of diversity. The borough of Queens is now the most diverse place on the face of the planet. There are more than 100 languages in use in the borough. On our campus, we estimate 83 languages spoken in the homes of our students. And Queens College still believes in public higher education as the engine of the American dream. So that's why I'm here, because this is a mission to lift a generation and a community.
You took over in the middle of a raging pandemic at a time when the country is really trying to confront racism in a more open and direct way. And so how are you doing managing these challenges?
Right now, we're 99% online. We've said that we want to emphasize safety first, and so we're following the science. You know, if you ask me, this is an opportunity. We're not just a college. Mainly we teach, we do research, but we're also a civic institution, and we have to be resilient and adapt. We have to be here for our students and for the borough. So I'm convinced that in the rebuilding to come, that will be not days and weeks, but months and years, that Queens College, like all institutions of higher education, will have a very important role to play. I'm determined for us to fulfill our responsibility.
And what about with respect to race? And I know Queens College has a long history of being committed to civil rights, including some well-known alums. What's happening in that area?
I say to our students that I'm just like them. I've come full circle. My parents came to the United States in the early 1960s. I'm 53. I was born here in the US on these shores. And at Queens College, so many of our students are either immigrants themselves or the children of newcomers. And so I identify with them. That mission is so important because to persevere, to have a reason, to be committed, you have to have a cause. The clock tower on our campus is named for the 3 civil rights workers, one of whom was a Queens College student, killed more than 50 years ago when they went down south to register voters. Corky Lee, who just passed away from COVID-19, was an alumnus of Queens College. He's best known as the Chinatown photographer, the unofficial photographer of all of Asian America. That's who we are.
We'll surely miss Corky. You and I worked together many years ago when, with your help, AABANY produced and presented a reenactment of the Vincent Chin case. How did you become interested in Asian American legal history, and what, if anything, do these cases teach us?
As much as we believe in the American dream, there's something not quite right, that we're not being welcomed the way we're supposed to be. And then the Vincent Chin case happened. I didn't know Chin, but I grew up maybe a dozen miles from there.
Did you go to law school because of the case? I think I read that somewhere.
Yes, that case inspired me. Probably most people at this gala know, but just in a sentence or two, in 1982, at the height of a recession in Detroit, the Motor City, called that because everyone made cars, Chin, a Chinese American, was bludgeoned to death with a baseball bat by 2 white auto workers who looked at him. They used those same racial slurs that I remember, that probably so many remember. And they blamed him for the success of Japanese cars. Never mind that he was Chinese, not Japanese, an American, not a foreigner. In their minds, he represented Tokyo and Toyota. So they bludgeoned him to death with a baseball bat. They never denied they did it. They always insisted, but
they pled guilty to doing it.
That's right, yeah. They were sentenced to probation for 3 years and a fine of $3,000. That changed the world for me. It changed the world for so many Asian Americans, because that case represents the Asian American experience, this mistaken identity twice over. You all look alike. It's your fault. Pearl Harbor, the Vietnam War, COVID, right? If you have this face, this texture of hair, shape of eye, color of skin, you're associated with the exotic Orient.
Now, you published your book, Yellow, about 20 years ago, and you wrote about race in America and how race relations had largely been a black-white paradigm, but it should be more. Do you think that has changed in any respect?
Yeah, absolutely. And Judge, in part, it's the work that you've done, because when you go back into U.S. history, you realize, wait a minute, there's been Asian immigrants all along. And they weren't passive, they weren't submissive, they were feisty. They litigated up to the United States Supreme Court again and again and again. They even won a few cases. I'm not talking about 10 years ago, I'm talking about more than 100 years ago. These Asian litigants banded together, hired white lawyers, the best lawyers you could find, and took cases where you would only have had a Chinaman's chance, they would have said.
What advice do you have for us, including for me?
You are a role model for so many. Stand up, speak out, go to the places that others wouldn't have expected, that you yourself might not have expected. This is what brings about change, not just in your own career, but for the community. Because when you show up there and you sit down and you speak your mind, you're making a statement no matter what. So all of us have a role to play.
Well, President Wu, congratulations on an incredible career. You've done so much, not just for the Asian American community, but really for all Americans. We are grateful for all that you've done and for all that we know you will continue to do.
Thank you so much, Judge. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Frank and Judge Chin. Listen, I have been holding this the whole time so you wouldn't be sued by the FTC for false advertising of an actual fireside for your fireside chat. Now, this is dedication.